My wife cheated on me with her boss and secretly transferred $200, $0 of our savings to his account before filing for divorce. Now she's claiming it was our money, but I just found out she's been secretly selling property worth over $500, $0 to cover her legal fees. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy writing this kind of story, but here I am. The craziest thing just happened, and I feel like I need to get it off my chest. It all started about 6 months ago, and honestly, I should have seen it coming. My wife, Lisa, had always been a bit of a bitch, but I loved her, so I ignored the little signs. She's the kind of woman who's always been good at hiding her true feelings, smiling, acting sweet, but you could tell she was calculating something. Still, I never thought she'd cheat on me, let alone with her boss, Mark. Things started to change around that time. She became more secretive with her phone, texting late at night, deleting messages like her life depended on it. She also started dressing differently, more provocative, more confident in a way that made me uncomfortable. I noticed her spending more money, fancy dinners, shopping sprees, things we never really did before. I asked her about it once, and she brushed it off, saying she was just treating herself because she worked so hard. But I had this nagging feeling like I was missing something, like there was a wall she was hiding behind. Then one night I came home early from work because I wasn't feeling well. I figured I'd surprise her, maybe catch her off guard. Instead, I caught her in the act. She was in our bedroom, and not just with Mark, she was on top of him, her hands all over his face, her lips pressed against his. It was like my worst nightmare come to life. I froze there in the doorway, watching them, feeling a mix of shock, anger, and heartbreak all at once. I wanted to scream, to yell at her, but I couldn't move. I just stood there, staring as she looked up and saw me. Her face went pale for a second, then she immediately tried to cover herself, her voice trembling as she said, "It's not what you think, it's just sex, that's all. He's just a boss, a friend. It doesn't mean anything." She looked at me with those cold, bitchy eyes like she was trying to convince herself as much as me. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. How could she lie so easily? How could she just dismiss it like it was nothing? I wanted to believe her, but deep down I knew that wasn't the truth. After that, everything changed. I started digging, trying to find out what was really going on. I noticed that she had transferred a huge amount of money, 200 out of our joint savings account, right into Mark's personal account. I saw the transfer on our bank statement and my stomach dropped. That kind of money, it wasn't just a mistake or a coincidence. She did it deliberately. That's when I knew she was not just cheating on me emotionally or physically, but she was also stealing from us. I couldn't believe it. I felt betrayed on so many levels, by her, by myself for not noticing sooner, by this whole damn situation. I confronted her about the transfer. Her reaction was classic Lisa. She everything, called me paranoid, said I was overreacting. She said the money was our money, that I shouldn't be accusing her of theft just because she was having an affair. She spun this web of lies, saying she needed the money for legal fees, that she was fighting for her rights in the divorce, even though I knew she was secretly selling property worth over $500, $0 to cover her legal bills. I found out later she'd been doing it behind my back secretly without telling me. She's always been good at hiding her true intentions, an expert liar, really. I felt like I was losing my mind. One day I'd be furious, ready to blow up, and the next I'd feel numb, like I was just going through the motions. The betrayal hit so hard I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I kept thinking about all the years we spent together, all the plans we made, and how she had thrown it all away for some stupid affair with her boss, Mark. That bastard. I still can't believe she actually went through with it, transferred that money, and thought she could get away with it. The worst part, she's still insisting she's innocent, that I don't understand her, that she's doing everything for herself. She's a master at gaslighting, twisting everything around so that I start questioning my own judgment. But I know the truth. I saw her with my own eyes. I saw her lying, stealing, and cheating. and I'm left here trying to figure out what to do next. Do I fight for the marriage? Do I walk away? Do I go after her for the money? It's all so overwhelming, and honestly, I feel like I'm drowning in betrayal and anger. I never thought she was capable of this level of deception, but here we are. After the initial shock wore off, I started to piece things together more clearly. The betrayal wasn't just about the affair with Mark, though that alone was enough to tear me apart. It was the way she'd been manipulating everything behind my back. The transfer of $200, $0 was just the tip of the iceberg. I found out she's been secretly selling off our property, assets worth over $500,000 to cover her legal fees. She's been lying about everything, telling me she was just fighting for her rights, but I knew better. This wasn't about rights. It was about greed, betrayal, and pure selfishness. I remember sitting there, staring at the bank statement, trying to process what I was seeing. How could she do this? How could she take such a huge chunk of our savings, money we worked hard for, and give it away to her lover? It was like she didn't even care about the life we built together. I kept asking myself, how long has she been planning this? Was it always in the back of her mind? Did she ever really love me, or was I just a safe place for her until she found someone better? I also started noticing the little things she did to cover her tracks. Her phone was always password protected, and she'd delete her texts late at night. She'd leave her laptop open but quickly close it if I came near. She was more aggressive in denying everything, calling me paranoid, accusing me of being controlling. That bitch was a master at spinning stories. She insisted she was saving the property for us, that she was doing it all to protect our future. But I knew better. I knew she was selling our assets behind my back, secretly funneling money into her legal fund and probably into Mark's account too. The thing is, I'm not stupid. I started digging deeper, looking into her bank accounts and her phone records. I found out she'd been in contact with Mark almost daily, even when she told me she was working late or meeting with her lawyer. I saw the messages, flirty, suggestive, and outright inappropriate. She was lying to my face, pretending she was innocent, but I had proof now, hard, undeniable proof. The betrayal hit me like a freight train. I felt so angry, so hurt, but also a strange sense of clarity. I realized I couldn't keep going like this, pretending everything was okay. I had to confront her again, but this time I was prepared. I wanted answers, and I wanted to know exactly how deep her lies went. One night, I sat her down. I told her I knew about the money transfer, about the property sales, about her affair. Her reaction was shocking. She looked at me with that same cold, bitchy expression she always had, and she started lying again. Said she didn't sell anything, that I was mistaken, that she was only doing what was necessary for legal reasons. But I had the proof. I showed her the bank statements, the property deeds, the messages. She tried to deny everything, but I saw the panic in her eyes. She knew she was caught. That confrontation was the breaking point for me. I realized she'd been lying for months, maybe longer. She didn't love me anymore, she just wanted the money and her new life with Mark. I felt so betrayed, so stupid for not seeing it sooner. I kept telling myself I should have trusted my instincts, but I'd been blinded by love and hope. Now I was left with nothing but a mountain of lies and a shattered marriage. The emotional fallout was brutal. I was furious, yes, but also heartbroken. I kept replaying everything, the good times, the fights, the moments I thought she loved me. It all seemed so meaningless now. I kept asking myself how I could have been so blind, how I didn't see the signs earlier. But the truth is, she was good at hiding her true self. She's always been a bitchy, manipulative woman, and I just didn't want to see it. I knew I had to make a decision. Do I fight to save what's left of this marriage? Do I try to get the money back? Or do I cut my losses and walk away? Honestly, right now, I'm leaning toward the latter. I can't imagine staying with someone who's lied, cheated, and stolen from me. I've never felt so betrayed in my life. The trust is gone, and I don't think I can rebuild it. But I also know I need to be smart about my next steps, especially when it comes to the legal mess she's created. I'm not hiding how angry I am. I want her to pay for what she's done, but I also want to protect myself. I've started talking to a lawyer, gathering evidence, and preparing for whatever comes next. She's going to regret crossing me, I swear. I've never been a vengeful guy, but right now, I want her to feel the same pain she's caused me, maybe even more. This whole experience has opened my eyes to how little I knew her, how much she was willing to lie and cheat just to get what she wanted. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that I won't be the same person after this. I've learned a harsh lesson about trust, betrayal, and greed. And honestly, I'm just trying to hold it together while figuring out the next move. After I gathered enough evidence and finally confronted Lisa with everything I found, her affair, the transfer of our savings, the property sales, things escalated quickly. She started to get defensive, but it was obvious she was panicked. Her usual bitchy, manipulative tone shifted to one of outright anger and denial. She kept insisting she was doing this all for us, that she was fighting for our future, even though I knew deep down she was only fighting to cover her own ass and keep her affair hidden. She tried to spin her lies harder, claiming she had no idea about the property sales, that she was only transferring money to Mark to protect herself legally, that she didn't sell anything without my knowledge. I just stared at her, feeling the rage boiling inside. Me? How could she be so damn convincing when she was lying through her teeth? I could see the flicker of guilt and fear in her eyes, but she masked it behind that bitchy smirk she always had when she thought she was winning. The emotional toll was intense. I felt like I was losing my mind. My stomach was in knots, my hands trembling. I couldn't believe I'd trusted her for so long. The woman I thought I knew was just a mask she put on to hide her real self. I kept asking myself, how did I miss all the signs? How did I let her get away with this for so long? I'd always thought she was ambitious, maybe a little bitchy, but never capable of this kind of deception. The betrayal was so deep that I started to question everything. I wondered if I ever truly knew her at all. Did she love me? Or was I just a safety net while she looked for someone better? The thought made me sick. I felt a mixture of heartbreak and fury. Every time I thought about how she'd been secretly selling property worth over $500, $0, I wanted to scream. That was our future, our security gone, just evaporated because she was too selfish and greedy to tell the truth. I decided I needed to act fast. I couldn't let her keep hiding her tracks. I contacted a lawyer, explained everything, and started to prepare for a serious legal fight. I wanted to freeze her assets, reclaim what I could, and make sure she didn't walk away with everything. I also started to dig into her financial records, looking for more hidden accounts or transactions. It was like peeling back layers of a rotten onion. Every new discovery made me angrier. Meanwhile, Lisa kept lying, trying to gaslight me into believing she was innocent. She kept saying, "You're overreacting," or "You don't understand the legal system," but I wasn't buying it anymore. I knew she was hiding something, and I was determined to find out what. I even hired a private investigator to track her movements, just to see if she was really just fighting for her legal rights, or if she was still sneaking around with Mark. The more I looked into her activities, the clearer it became that she'd been planning this for months. Her sudden interest in property sales, her secret transfers, her late-night calls, everything pointed to a premeditated betrayal. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. I'd always thought she was ambitious and maybe a little bitchy, but I never imagined she'd be capable of this level of deception and greed. One night, I caught her trying to hide her phone when I came into the room. I grabbed it, and what I saw made my blood run cold. There were messages from Mark, flirty and suggestive, talking about meeting up, getting away from everything, and even discussing how she'd cover her legal fees. I couldn't believe it. All those nights she claimed she was working late or with her lawyer, she was actually planning her affair and her escape route. That moment I felt a surge of pure rage. I wanted to destroy her to make her pay for what she'd done. But I also knew I had to stay calm, keep my head clear, and stick to my plan. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I was done being the naive husband who believed her lies. Now I was fighting to reclaim what was mine, and to hold her accountable for everything. I also started to think about how I was going to handle the emotional fallout. I'd been with her for over a decade, and now it felt like everything was falling apart. I was angry, hurt, betrayed, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I knew I couldn't fix this marriage, not after everything I'd uncovered. She crossed too many lines. The trust was shattered beyond repair. What I needed now was to focus on my own stability, my future, and making sure she didn't walk away with all our money. I sat down and made a list: what I knew, what I needed to do, and what I wanted to accomplish. First, secure a legal freeze on her assets. Second, gather all evidence of her secret property sales and transfers. Third, document her affair and any other hidden transactions. Fourth, prepare myself emotionally for the fallout. Because I knew this was only the beginning of a long, ugly battle. Honestly, I felt exhausted but also strangely liberated. For so long, I'd been blind, trusting her blindly. Now I saw her for what she really was: a manipulative, greedy woman who'd lied and cheated her way through our marriage. The pain of betrayal is something I wouldn't wish on anyone, but I also realized I had to take control of my life again. I can't change what she's done, but I can decide how I move forward from here. And trust me, that's exactly what I plan to do. The next few days were a whirlwind. I spent every free moment working with my lawyer, trying to piece together the full extent of Lisa's betrayal. The more I dug, the more I uncovered. She'd been selling off property, secretly transferring funds, and still maintaining her affair with Mark. It was like a massive puzzle, and I was determined to get every piece in place before she could cover her tracks further. One thing that really hit me hard during this period was the realization of how much she'd been lying to my face. I found out that she'd secretly sold a house worth over $300, $0, and I had no idea until I saw the official documents. She transferred the money into her personal accounts, claiming she was protecting it from some imaginary legal threat. I still remember the sick feeling in my stomach. When I saw the documents, she'd been planning this all along, right under my nose. I also discovered that she'd been funneling money into a separate account, one I didn't even know existed. It was hidden behind a series of shell companies and fake names. I started to get angry, thinking about all the years I'd trusted her, all the nights I'd come home from work exhausted, thinking she was just working late. Meanwhile, she was secretly building her own empire of lies, selling our assets and planning her escape with Mark. The emotional toll was brutal. I felt like I was living in a nightmare. Every time I thought I had a handle on things, I'd find another lie, another betrayal. I was furious, but I also felt a deep sadness. I kept asking myself how someone I loved could do this to me, to us. The woman I married, the woman I thought I knew, turned out she was just a manipulative, selfish bitch. She lied, cheated, stolen from me, and now she was trying to gaslight me into thinking I was overreacting. One night I decided I needed to confront her again, face to face, and get some answers. I arranged to meet her at her apartment. She was surprised to see me, her usual bitchy smirk flickering as she realized I'd been digging. I laid everything out: proof of the property sales, the secret accounts, the transfers, the messages with Mark. I wanted her to see that I wasn't messing around anymore. I wanted her to understand that I knew everything. Her reaction was a mixture of anger and panic. She started to cry, fake tears streaming down her face, claiming she was sorry, that she'd made a mistake, that she loved me. But I wasn't buying it. I told her she was a liar, a thief, and a cheat. I told her I was done with her manipulations. I said I'd be taking everything I could, fighting for my rights, and that she was going to regret crossing me. She kept insisting she was innocent, that I was just jealous or paranoid, but I had all the evidence. I showed her the bank statements, the property deeds, the texts. Her face fell. She knew she was cornered. That's when I realized this wasn't just about the money or the affair. It was about her trying to control everything, too. Spin her lies until I believed her. But I knew better now. I also started to reflect on how this whole situation had changed me. I used to be a trusting guy, maybe too trusting. But now I was more cautious, more aware of the fact that people can hide their true selves behind a pretty face or a fake smile. Lisa was proof of that. She'd been pretending to be the loving wife, the caring partner, while secretly betraying me at every turn. As I left her apartment that night, I felt a strange mix of relief and rage. I was finally starting to see the full picture, and I knew I had to act quickly. I had to protect what was left of my financial security, and make sure she couldn't just walk away with everything. I also knew that I had to prepare myself emotionally for the fallout. She was probably going to try to manipulate me even more, to spin the story in her favor. Since then, I've been working non-stop with my lawyer. We're drafting legal notices to freeze her assets, and I've started to compile a dossier of all her lies, transactions, and secret dealings. Every day feels like a new battle. I feel betrayed, angry, and exhausted all at once. But deep down, I also feel a strange sense of determination. I refuse to let her get away with this. She's going to pay for what she's done one way or another. I keep asking myself, how did I let it get this far? The truth is, I was blind for a long time. I didn't want to see the signs, didn't want to believe she could be capable of this level of deceit. But now I know better. I've learned that sometimes the people closest to you can turn out to be the biggest liars and thieves. And I've learned that I need to be strong, to stand up for myself, and to fight for what's rightfully mine. Because at the end of the day, that's all I have left: my integrity, my future, and the truth. Over the next couple of weeks, the reality of everything started to hit harder than I expected. I was knee-deep in legal battles, trying to freeze her accounts, get a court order to stop her from selling any more property, and track down every hidden dollar she'd managed to squirrel away. Every day was a new shock. She'd been selling off our assets, lying about legal fees, and still maintaining her affair with Mark behind my back. Honestly, I felt like I was living in some twisted nightmare I couldn't wake up from. One night, I finally got a hold of some detailed bank statements and property records. It was staggering. She secretly sold a second property worth about $200, $0, just a few weeks after the first one. She transferred the proceeds into a fake shell company account, which I later discovered was registered under a different name. The scope of her betrayal was mind-boggling. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. I kept thinking, how many more lies are out there? How many more assets has she hidden? The emotional toll was brutal. I've been trying to hold it together, but every new piece of evidence made me feel more betrayed, more stupid for trusting her. I'd always thought she was ambitious, maybe a little bitchy, but never this cold and calculating. Now I could see she'd been scheming behind my back, planning her escape while I was clueless. It crushed me to realize I'd spent over a decade building a life with this woman, only to find out she'd been secretly tearing it apart for her own gain. I also started to notice she was getting more aggressive in her lies. She'd call me paranoid when I questioned her about her whereabouts or her finances. She accused me of spying or controlling her, trying to turn things around so I'd doubt myself. But I had all the proof now. Every message, every transfer, every sale, laid out in black and white. I was done playing her game. One particularly explosive day, I confronted her again. I called her out in person, told her I knew everything: the affair, the money, the property sales. She looked at me with that cold, bitchy glare that I'd come to hate, and for a moment I saw her real face. The face of someone who'd been lying, manipulating, and stealing for months. She tried to deny everything, but I pulled out the evidence: screenshots, bank statements, property deeds, and watched her crumble. She started to cry, fake tears streaming down her face, and told me she was sorry, that she'd made a mistake. But I wasn't buying it anymore. Sorry doesn't cut it when you've been unfaithful, stealing, and scheming behind someone's back. I told her she was a liar and a thief, that her actions had destroyed what little trust we had left. I told her I was done, that I was going to fight to get every penny back, and that she'd have to face the consequences of her actions. The more I fought, the more I realized how deep her deception ran. She'd been planning this for a long time. She'd been secretly selling property, transferring money, and lying about legal fees. She'd been sleeping with Mark, probably for months, while pretending to be a devoted wife. It was like I'd been living with a stranger all along. The woman I loved was gone, replaced by someone who only cared about herself and her own greed. I started to think about what I wanted moving forward. I knew I couldn't stay with her. How could I after everything? Trust was completely broken. I wanted a clean break, to start fresh and rebuild my life without her manipulations hanging over me. I also knew I had to protect what was left of my financial future, so I focused on getting a court order to freeze her assets and prevent her from selling any more property. I was determined to fight for every dollar I could get back. During this process, I also realized I needed to focus on my own mental health. I'd been so consumed with the legal battle that I barely had time to process the emotional trauma. I started seeing a therapist just to help me deal with the betrayal and anger. It wasn't easy. Every session, I'd break down crying, realizing how much I'd trusted her, only to find out she'd been lying to my face the whole time. But I also started to feel stronger, more determined. I refused to let her destroy me completely. In the midst of all this chaos, I also found myself reflecting on the lessons I'd learned. Trust is fragile, and sometimes the people you love the most can betray you in ways you never imagined. I learned that greed and manipulation can turn someone into a completely different person. And I learned that, no matter how much you want to believe in the best in someone, you have to be vigilant. Because if you're not, you might wake up one day with your entire life turned upside down. Now, I'm in the thick of the fight, trying to get justice and reclaim what's mine. It's exhausting, but I know I've done the right thing by standing up for myself. I've realized I can't control her actions, but I can control how I respond. And I refuse to let her win. I want her to understand that her betrayal has consequences, and I will fight tooth and nail to make sure she pays for what she's done. Because at the end of the day, I deserve better than this. I deserve honesty, respect, and someone who genuinely cares. And I'm not going to settle for anything less. After everything I've uncovered and fought through, I finally reached a point where I could see some clarity. The legal battles are still ongoing, but I've managed to get a court order that freezes her assets and stops her from selling any more property. It's a small victory, but a necessary one. I've also started the process of recovering what I can, trying to hold her accountable for the money she stole, the lies she told, and the life she almost destroyed. Looking back, I realize how much this experience has changed me. I used to trust too easily, believe in the best of people, and ignore the signs when they were right in front of me. Now I see things differently. I've become more cautious, more aware that some people are capable of manipulation and greed beyond what I ever thought possible. I've learned that sometimes, love isn't enough to keep a relationship afloat when lies and betrayal are involved. The emotional scars are still there, but I'm learning to live with them. I've come to accept that this chapter of my life is over. Lisa is no longer part of it. I've cut ties, moved out of the house, and started building a new life. It's not easy. There are days when I feel angry or overwhelmed, but I remind myself that I did what I had to do. Standing up for myself was the only way to survive this mess. One thing that's become clear is how important it is to trust your instincts. I ignored the warning signs for too long and I paid a heavy price. But now I know better. I won't let anyone manipulate me again. I've become more assertive, more cautious with my boundaries, and more determined to protect myself, emotionally and financially. I also want to share this story because I know there are others out there who might be going through something similar. If you suspect your partner is hiding something, don't ignore it. Trust your gut, investigate, and don't be afraid to seek help, whether from friends, family, or professionals. It's better to face the truth early than to let lies fester and destroy everything. Most of all, I've learned that life goes on. No matter how deep the betrayal, no matter how shattered your trust feels, you can rebuild. It's not easy and it takes time, but healing is possible. I'm slowly putting the pieces back together, focusing on myself and my future. I know I'll never forget what happened, but I also refuse to let it define me. I'm stronger now, more aware, and ready to move forward. In the end, I want to believe that everything happens for a reason, even the painful things. This betrayal taught me a harsh but valuable lesson. Never take trust for granted and always keep your eyes open. Because if someone is willing to lie, cheat, and steal from you, they don't deserve your blind faith. They deserve to be exposed, held accountable, and left behind. And that's exactly what I intend to do.